Look, I never thought I'd be the guy telling a story like this. I mean, I've seen it happen to other people, read about it, watched it in movies, but when it happens to you, it's like a punch to the gut you never saw coming. So, my name's Alex Reeves. I'm 52, been married to Monica for 27 years. We have one daughter, Rachel, beautiful, smart, about to get married in a dream wedding that I was supposed to fund. Life was good. Or at least I thought it was. Lately, though, Monica had been acting off. First, it was small things. She'd come home later than usual, saying she had faculty meetings at the community college where she taught art. She used to complain about those meetings, but now she seemed excited about them. And then there was her phone, always face down, never out of her sight. She was always texting, but when I asked who she was talking to, she'd just laugh it off. "You're paranoid, Alex," she'd say with that condescending smile. "It's just work stuff." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But then Rachel, our daughter, casually mentioned something that made my stomach drop. "Mom's been staying late at school a lot," she said one evening while scrolling through her phone. I thought she hated those meetings. Who's she hanging out with? It was such an innocent comment. Rachel wasn't suspicious. She was just making conversation. But something in the way she said it stuck with me. I brushed it off, but that night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to shake the feeling that something was wrong. That's when I decided to pay more attention. I wasn't going to accuse her of anything. Not yet. But I needed to know. So I started watching. And what I found? Well, let's just say my entire world was about to collapse. After that conversation with Rachel, I couldn't let it go. My gut was screaming at me that something wasn't right, but I needed proof. I wasn't going to be the paranoid husband who accuses his wife of cheating just because she's acting a little different. So I started paying attention. First thing I noticed? Monica was dressing differently. She always had a simple, casual style, loose blouses, jeans, flats. But lately, tighter tops, skirts that hugged her figure, makeup even when she wasn't going anywhere special. She'd leave for work looking like she was going on a date. Then there was the phone, always on silent, never out of her reach. If I so much as glanced at it, she'd pull it closer like I was trying to steal state secrets. One night, she was in the shower, and her phone lit up. Just a text, nothing unusual, but the name on the screen? JD. My heart started pounding. I wasn't going to go through her phone. I still had some self-respect left, but I made a mental note of that name. The next day, I casually asked, "Hey, who's JD? I saw their name pop up on your phone last night." Her reaction told me everything. She froze for half a second, just long enough for me to notice, then laughed. "Oh, that's just James. You remember him, right? The literature professor? We've been working on an art literature crossover project for the school. James Davidson." Yeah, I knew the name. I had met him once at some faculty event years ago. Seemed like a regular guy, but something about Monica's reaction didn't sit right with me. Still, I nodded and acted like I bought it. But now I had a name, and I wasn't about to let this go. Once I had a name, James Davidson, I couldn't stop myself. I had to know more. I started with a simple Google search. James Davidson, literature professor, community college. His faculty bio was standard, nothing unusual. But then I went deeper. I found old forum posts from past students. Some praised his teaching. Others, not so much. Words like unprofessional, too personal with students, and even inappropriate relationships started popping up. That was enough to make my skin crawl. Then I went looking for photos. Monica never posted much on social media, but James? His profile was public. And there, buried in a group photo from some campus event, was my wife, standing a little too close to him, smiling just a little too much. Still, none of this was proof. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just seeing what I wanted to see. But then, something else happened. That night, Monica was in her art studio, her little space in the basement where she'd been spending more and more time lately. When she wasn't at school, she was down there painting. I walked in casually, pretending to check something on the shelf. And that's when I saw them. Sketches. Dozens of them. And they weren't just any sketches. They were of a man. A man with strong features, tousled hair, a familiar smirk. James. She had been drawing him, over and over again. Some were just rough sketches, but others were detailed, shaded, careful, intimate. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't say anything. I just turned and walked out. I needed a plan, because now I knew. After finding those sketches, I couldn't think straight. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see were those drawings. His face, his damn smirk, the way she had carefully shaded his features like she was memorizing every inch of him. The worst part? She never drew me. Monica used to sketch all the time, but in our 27 years together, she had never once drawn me like that. Not even close. I knew I couldn't just confront her yet. I needed more. If she was lying to me, she'd lie her way out of it unless I had cold, hard proof. So, the next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I hired a private investigator. I found a guy online. Good reviews, discreet, no nonsense. When I called, he sounded like he'd heard my story 100 times before. Spouse suspected of cheating, he asked, getting straight to the point. Yeah, I admitted, hating the way the words felt coming out of my mouth. All right, he said. Tell me everything you know. So I told him about the late nights, the phone, the name, the sketches. He listened without interrupting, then asked the question I was dreading. Do you want the truth, or do you want to stay in the dark? The truth. I needed it. We arranged everything. He'd follow her, take pictures, and gather whatever evidence he could. Then I waited. The first blow. For the next week, I played my role. I kissed Monica goodbye in the mornings, acted normal at dinner, even pretended to be interested when she talked about work. Meanwhile, I was checking my phone constantly, waiting for updates from the PI. And then, on a Thursday night, he sent me an email with photos attached. I hesitated before opening them, because once I saw what was inside, there was no turning back. But I had to know. I clicked, and there it was, Monica and James, sitting across from each other at a cafe, leaning in close, laughing like they were sharing some private joke, holding hands across the table. My stomach turned. More photos. Them walking down the street, her arm brushing against his. Then another. Outside his car, Monica looking up at him with a smile I hadn't seen in years. A smile that used to be mine. And the worst one. James leaning in, pressing a kiss to her cheek, and Monica closing her eyes like she was savoring the moment. I gripped my phone so hard I thought I might break it. This wasn't just emotional cheating. This wasn't just a work friend. She was in love with him. And that's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg her for answers. No, I was going to destroy her. The plan forms. I could have confronted her that night, but that would have been too easy. She would cry, she would lie, she would twist the story. No, I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices in a way she'd never recover from. And I knew exactly where to start. Rachel's wedding. Monica had been so involved in the planning, acting like this was the happiest time of her life. She had spent hours picking out decorations, flower arrangements, the perfect venue. And she expected me to foot the entire $250,000 bill without question. Well, that wasn't happening anymore. I pulled up my financial accounts and started making changes. I transferred money, adjusted investments, made sure that the wedding fund, the one Monica was so confident in, was completely under my control. Then I made a call to our lawyer. Hey Alex, he greeted. What's up? I need to talk about some financial protections, I said. And maybe a divorce lawyer. He went quiet for a second. Then, come in tomorrow. We'll go over everything. I had a plan. And Monica? She had no idea what was coming. The moment I saw those pictures, I knew Monica was done. She just didn't know it yet. I wasn't going to yell, flip tables, or beg her to explain herself. No, I was going to be patient, methodical, calculated. If she wanted to sneak around and build a fantasy with James, then I was going to take away everything that made that fantasy possible. And it all started with Rachel's wedding. Setting the trap. I kept up appearances. At dinner, I asked Monica about wedding details, pretended to be invested. She beamed every time she talked about it, completely oblivious to the fact that I had already started pulling the financial rug out from under her. Rachel had no idea either. She was my daughter. I wasn't going to let her get caught in the crossfire. But I needed to wait for the perfect moment to let Monica know that the dream wedding she was obsessing over was never going to happen. In the meantime, I kept digging. My private investigator wasn't done yet. The photos were just the beginning. A few days later, he called. "Got something new," he said. "She's been going to his house." I felt my jaw tighten. "How often?" "Every couple of days. Sometimes she stays an hour, sometimes longer. But she's careful. Parks a block away, uses a different entrance." She knew she was doing something wrong. That only made me angrier. "I need more," I said. "Get inside his place. I need proof that she's sleeping with him." There was a pause. "That's tricky, but I can try." I didn't care how. I just wanted the truth. The full truth. Because once I had it, that was when I'd strike. The first slip-up. A week later, Monica slipped up. It was a Saturday morning. I was drinking coffee in the kitchen when she walked in, already dressed up. Tight jeans, a low-cut blouse. Makeup done just a little too well for a woman who claimed she was just going to the store. I played dumb. "Going somewhere?" She hesitated. "Oh, just running some errands. Might stop by the gallery. See if they need anything for the exhibit next month." I nodded, pretending to buy it. "All right, have fun." She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, something she hadn't done in months, and walked out the door. I waited exactly 5 minutes before grabbing my keys and following her. Sure enough, she didn't go to the gallery. She drove across town, parked near a quiet residential street, and walked toward an apartment complex. I stayed back, watching as she took out her phone, sent a text, and waited. Seconds later, James opened the door. I watched as he pulled her inside, his hand resting way too comfortably on her lower back. And that was it. I had all the proof I needed. The kill shot. That night, I acted completely normal. I kissed Monica when she got home, asked her if she had a good time. She smiled and told me about some art supplies she picked up. But I didn't call her out. Not yet. Instead, I went to my office and drafted an email. I attached every single photo the investigator had sent me, the cafe, the hand-holding, the house visits. Then I wrote, "To James Davidson. Subject: You won. James, I know everything. You can have Monica. But understand this, her life as she knows it is over. I'll be filing for divorce soon. I'll make sure she walks away with nothing. No house. No financial security. And the wedding she's been planning for our daughter? That's gone too. She'll be left with exactly what she chose, you. Good luck." I hovered over the send button, my finger itching to press it. But I didn't. Not yet. I had one last move to make before I set everything on fire. I had every reason to hit send on that email right then and there. But something in me told me to wait. See, ruining Monica's life wasn't just about exposing her affair. It was about timing. If I played this right, she wouldn't just lose me. She'd lose everything she cared about all at once. So I held back, and I planned, pulling the plug. The next day, I met with my lawyer. We went over everything, our assets, accounts, and most importantly, the wedding fund. "You've been the sole contributor to this account?" he asked. "Yep, every penny. Then you can withdraw it any time." And that's exactly what I did. Right there in his office, I moved the entire $250,000 wedding fund into my private account. Monica had no idea. Next, I made sure our house was legally protected. My lawyer confirmed that, since I had inherited it from my parents before our marriage, it wasn't a shared asset. It was mine. Monica had no claim to it. That meant when I pulled the trigger on this, she wouldn't just lose me. She'd lose her home. It was all coming together. Rachel's big moment. A few days later, Rachel called. "Hey Dad, can we go over the final wedding payments this weekend? Mom said we need to start sending deposits." "Perfect. Of course, sweetheart," I said. "Let's do Sunday at brunch." I wanted Monica there when I told Rachel the truth. I wanted to see her face when she realized what was happening. The first crack in the mask. That Saturday night, Monica was in an unusually good mood. She made dinner, poured me a drink, and even started reminiscing about old memories, something she hadn't done in years. I played along, smiling, laughing, pretending like nothing was wrong. Then, casually, I asked, "How's James?" She flinched. It was subtle just for a second, but I caught it. "What?" she asked, forcing a laugh. "What do you mean?" "Oh, I just remember you saying he was helping with that art literature project." I took a sip of my drink. "You haven't mentioned him in a while." She turned back to the sink, scrubbing a little too hard. "Oh yeah, haven't really seen him much." She knew. She knew something was off. But it was too late. The brunch that changed everything. The next morning, we met Rachel at her favorite brunch spot. She was glowing, excited, bubbling over with wedding plans. Monica was all smiles, acting like the perfect wife and mother. I let them talk, sipping my coffee, waiting for the right moment. Finally, Rachel pulled out her wedding planner. "Okay, Dad, so the venue deposit is due this week, and the caterer needs half up front. Oh, and the dress place called about the final payment." I set my coffee down. "Rachel, honey," I said gently, "there's something we need to talk about first." Monica's smile froze. Rachel looked up, confused. "What's wrong?" I leaned forward, locking eyes with Monica. "I won't be paying for the wedding." Silence. Rachel blinked, then laughed like she misheard me. "What, Dad? Stop messing around." I didn't break eye contact with Monica. "I'm not messing around. The money is gone." Rachel's smile disappeared. "What do you mean, gone?" Monica's face turned pale. "Alex," she said through clenched teeth, "can we talk?" "No," I interrupted, still looking at her. "We can't." "Not anymore." Rachel looked between us, panic creeping into her voice. "What's going on?" I sighed and turned to my daughter. "I wanted to tell you sooner, but I needed to be sure. Your mother has been having an affair." Rachel's mouth dropped open. Monica gasped. "Alex!" I ignored her. "I have proof. Pictures. Witnesses. Private investigator. She's been lying to both of us." Rachel shook her head. No, that's not possible." I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table. "See for yourself." Rachel hesitated, then picked up my phone and started scrolling. The color drained from her face. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "Mom, tell me this isn't real." Monica reached for her. "Rachel, sweetie, it's not what it looks like." Rachel shoved the phone toward her. Don't you dare lie to me. I can see what it is." Monica's face crumpled. "It was a mistake." No, I said, my voice cold. "A mistake is one bad choice. This was a full-blown affair." Rachel's hands were shaking. "Is this why Dad isn't paying for the wedding?" I nodded. "I'm sorry, honey, but I can't reward this kind of betrayal. I was willing to do anything for our family. And your mother threw it all away." Rachel turned to Monica, fire in her eyes. "How could you? After everything Dad has done for us? After all the sacrifices he made?" Monica opened her mouth, but Rachel was already standing. "I need to go," she said, grabbing her purse. Monica scrambled after her. "Rachel, please, let's talk." Rachel spun around. "No, I don't want to hear a single word from you. You disgust me." And just like that, she walked out. Monica collapsed into her seat, hands trembling. "Alex, please, we can fix this." I took back my phone, stood up, and threw some cash on the table. "There's nothing to fix." Then I walked out, leaving Monica sitting there, alone, broken, and completely ruined. And I wasn't done yet. I didn't go home after brunch. I needed space. Instead, I drove around for hours, letting the weight of everything settle. By the time I walked through the front door that evening, Monica was waiting. Her eyes were red, mascara smudged. She had been crying. "Alex," she started, voice shaky. "Please, let's talk." I walked past her like she wasn't even there. She grabbed my arm. "Please." I turned, looking at her like she was a stranger. "Talk about what, Monica?" "How you threw away our marriage. Our family. Tears spilled down her face. It wasn't like that. I pulled my phone out, tapped the screen, and held up the pictures of her and James. It was exactly like that. She broke. Right there in the middle of the living room. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. I didn't mean to hurt you, she choked out. I was lost. I cut her off. I don't care. She flinched. I'm filing for divorce, I said. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be served soon. Her whole body shook. No. Please, Alex, don't do this. We can fix this. I stepped back, looking down at her. You already did this, Monica. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. Then I walked upstairs, leaving her crumpled on the floor. This was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No smell of coffee. No soft humming from Monica in the kitchen. Just emptiness. I walked downstairs. Monica was sitting at the table, staring blankly at her untouched cup of tea. She looked up, eyes hollow. Did you tell Rachel not to talk to me? I grabbed my own mug from the cabinet. I didn't have to. She winced like I had hit her. She won't answer my calls. I shrugged. Actions have consequences. Before she could say anything else, the doorbell rang. Right on time. Monica looked confused as I walked to the door and opened it. A man in a suit stood there, holding a thick envelope. Monica Reeves? He asked, glancing past me. Monica stood slowly, already sensing what was coming. The man held out the envelope. You've been served. Her hands shook as she took it. Alex! I shut the door before she could say another word. Let it sink in. This was real now. Monica just stood there, gripping the divorce papers like they might disappear if she held them tight enough. Her mouth opened, then closed. Finally, she whispered, You really did this. I sat down at the kitchen table, sipping my coffee. What did you expect? Tears welled up in her eyes. I thought, she swallowed. I thought we could talk. I let out a short laugh. Talk? Like how you talked to James behind my back. She flinched. It wasn't serious, Alex. I slammed my mug down. Don't lie to me. She broke again, shoulders shaking. I don't want to lose everything. I leaned back, folding my arms. You already did. Her lip trembled. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Not my problem. And for the first time in a long time, I saw it, true fear in her eyes. She knew. She was screwed. Monica stood there, frozen, clutching the divorce papers like they were the last thing keeping her upright. I could see her mind racing, trying to come up with something, anything, that might save her. She placed the envelope on the table carefully, like setting down a bomb that might go off at any second. Then she looked at me, her voice trembling. Alex, please, can we at least talk about this? Just us. I took another slow sip of my coffee before answering. Talk about what, Monica? How you spent the last year sneaking around with James. How you lied to my face every single day. She shook her head quickly. It wasn't like that. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. Oh, that makes it better, then. You didn't mean to destroy our marriage. You just tripped and fell into an affair? She reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled away. Alex, I was lonely, she whispered, her voice breaking. You were always so busy. I felt like I was disappearing. I scoffed. So your solution was to run to him? To cheat? She wiped at her eyes. I wasn't thinking. It just happened. I shook my head. No, Monica. A kiss just happens. A one-time mistake just happens. But meeting him for months, sneaking into his apartment, keeping it a secret, and lying to my face? That doesn't just happen. That's a choice. She let out a shaky breath. I never stopped loving you, Alex. I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. Don't insult me. She blinked, startled. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this, I said. And you sure as hell wouldn't have let me be the last person to find out. Her shoulders shook. I made a mistake. No, I said coldly. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. What you did was a betrayal. She bit her lip, her fingers curling into fists. I could see it. She wanted to keep begging, keep playing the regretful wife. But the problem with Monica? She wasn't just a liar. She was a bad liar. I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't just crying because she regretted what she did. She was crying because she had lost control. And she knew it. The harsh reality. She sat there for a long time, silent, staring at the table. Then finally she spoke again. What happens now? I shrugged. Simple. You move out. She looked up, panicked. Move out? Alex. Where am I supposed to go? I stared at her, my face blank. Not my problem. Her breathing picked up. But I don't have anywhere else. I don't make enough to afford a place like this on my own. I tilted my head. Well, maybe James can take you in. She flinched. Alex, you made your choice, I said flatly. Now live with it. She let out a shaky breath. Please don't do this. I can't just leave. You should have thought about that before you threw away our marriage. Her lip trembled. You don't have to be cruel. I stared at her, unblinking. You do not get to cheat on me and then tell me how to act. She looked away, her hands shaking. She was realizing the truth. I wasn't budging. I had already made my moves. The wedding money was gone. The divorce papers were filed. The house was legally mine. She had nothing. And for the first time, I think she truly understood how badly she had messed up. She was about to lose everything. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. Monica sat there, silent, her mind racing for a way out. I could see it in her face, the realization, the panic. She had spent so much time sneaking around, so much energy hiding her affair, that she never stopped to consider what would happen if she got caught. And now she had no backup plan. She took a deep breath, trying to compose herself. Alex, I know I hurt you, but can't we at least figure something out? I don't have anywhere else to go. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. That's not my problem. Her eyes flashed with something. Anger, frustration. I made a mistake, but I'm still your wife. Not for long, I said coldly. She swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. What about Rachel? How do you think she's going to feel if she finds out you're throwing me out on the street? I smirked. You mean the same Rachel who won't even answer your calls? The same Rachel who just lost her dream wedding because of you. Her face fell. I continued, Rachel is furious with you, Monica. Not me. And if you think you can use her to guilt me into letting you stay, you really don't understand how badly you've messed this up. Tears welled in her eyes again. So that's it? You just want to punish me? I tilted my head. No, Monica. You punished yourself. I'm just making sure you get what you deserve. She sat there, stunned. Like she still couldn't believe this was happening. But it was. The final goodbye. After a long silence, she wiped her tears and straightened up, her expression shifting. The pleading, regretful wife act was slipping. Now she just looked angry. You know, she said, her voice suddenly cold. I thought after all these years, you'd have a little more compassion. I let out a short laugh. Compassion? You cheated on me for a year, Monica. Lied to my face every single day. Don't stand there and ask me for compassion. She clenched her jaw. Fine, she spat. If you want me gone, I'll go. I nodded. Good. You have a week. Her head snapped up. A week? That's generous, I said. I could have kicked you out today. Her eyes burned with resentment. But she didn't argue. She knew she had no leverage left. For the first time in our marriage, I held all the power. I turned and started walking upstairs, done with the conversation. But before I reached the top, she called out one last time. You'll regret this, Alex, she said, voice shaking. I stopped but didn't turn around. No, Monica. You will. Then I went to bed, leaving her standing in the wreckage of her own choices. After our conversation, Monica moved like a ghost around the house. She barely spoke, barely ate. She knew she was on borrowed time. I wasn't cruel, I gave her the full week like I said I would. But I didn't make it easy. I didn't ask how she was feeling. I didn't pretend things were okay. I didn't let her manipulate me with tears or apologies. I was done. Rachel's decision. 3 days before Monica's deadline, Rachel finally called me. Dad, is it true? Her voice was hesitant, like she didn't want to believe it. Mom said you're making her leave. I sighed. Yes. She was quiet for a moment. Where is she gonna go? I shrugged. Even though she couldn't see me. That's up to her. Maybe James can take her in. Rachel let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, right. I don't even think he wants her now. That caught my attention. What do you mean? She hesitated, then sighed. I caved and answered one of her calls. She was crying about how James won't return her messages. Apparently, once she got caught and everything blew up, he backed off. He hasn't spoken to her in days. I smirked. Typical. Of course, James was done with her. He got the thrill of sneaking around, of feeling wanted, of playing the romantic fantasy. But now that Monica's life was in flames, now that she had nothing to offer him, he was gone. She did this to herself, I said simply. Rachel was quiet. Then softly, she said, yeah, she did. Moving day. On the morning of her final day, Monica was packed and ready. 2 suitcases. That was all she had. She stood by the door, looking around the house that had been hers for years, the house she thought she'd never have to leave. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't have anywhere to go. I crossed my arms. Not my problem. She wiped at her eyes. I never thought it would end like this. I nodded. Neither did I. For a second, I thought she might try one last plea. One last desperate attempt to change my mind. But she didn't. She sighed, picked up her bags, and walked out the door. I didn't watch her leave. I just shut the door behind her. And just like that, Monica Reeves was out of my life. The house was quieter than it had ever been. No Monica moving around. No forced conversations. No tension hanging in the air. Just peace. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Rachel's struggle. A few days after Monica left, Rachel stopped by. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. She dropped onto the couch, rubbing her temples. She won't stop calling me. I sighed. You don't have to answer. I know, she muttered, but she's my mom, and she's falling apart. I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to tell Rachel how to feel. She's staying with Aunt Linda, Rachel continued. But it's bad. She's depressed, barely eating. She keeps saying she lost everything. I shrugged. Well, she did. Rachel exhaled sharply. Do you even care? I looked at her, my voice calm. Did she care when she was sneaking around with James? Rachel didn't have an answer for that. After a long pause, she finally said, I don't know how to feel. I nodded. That makes 2 of us. James shows his true colors. A week later, I got an unexpected email. From James Davidson. Subject: Can we talk? I stared at the screen, shaking my head. Of all the things I expected, this wasn't one of them. Curious, I opened it. Alex, I know you have no reason to listen to me, but I just wanted to reach out. Things got out of control and I deeply regret what happened. I never wanted to ruin your family. If there's any way we can talk and find some kind of understanding, I'd appreciate it. James. I laughed out loud. Understanding? This guy thought we could just talk it out? I cracked my knuckles and typed my response. James, the only thing I understand is that you're a coward. You were happy to sneak around with my wife until it blew up in your face. Now you're reaching out because you feel guilty? Don't bother. We have nothing to discuss. Stay out of my life. I hit send. And that was the last time I ever heard from James Davidson. Days turned into weeks. Monica was gone. James had disappeared. The divorce was moving forward. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. But Rachel? She was still struggling. She came by one evening looking drained. She sat across from me at the dining table, staring at her hands. Dad, she said softly, do you ever think maybe we should forgive her? I took a deep breath. Do you want to forgive her? Rachel hesitated. I don't know. Part of me feels bad for her. She's miserable. She has nothing. And I keep thinking, she's still my mom. I nodded. I get it. She's your mother. You're allowed to feel however you feel. She bit her lip. But you're not going to forgive her, are you? I shook my head. No, Rachel. I'm not. She sighed, rubbing her temples. I don't think I can either. Not yet. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Then don't force it. Take your time. She nodded, but I could see the pain in her eyes. Monica had destroyed more than just our marriage. She had shattered our family. And some things just don't go back to the way they were. Monica's last attempt. A few days later, I got one last text from Monica. I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But I just wanted to say, I miss you. I miss our family. I miss what we had. I'm so sorry. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. No response. No second chances. She made her bed. Now she had to lie in it. With Monica gone and the divorce moving forward, life finally started feeling normal again. Peaceful. I wasn't drowning in anger anymore. I wasn't obsessing over what she did. I was just done. Rachel's choice. One evening, Rachel called. I finally told Mom I need space, she said. She cried. But I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I sighed. How do you feel? She hesitated. Relieved, I think. Sad too. But mostly relieved. I nodded. That's all you can do. Make the choice that gives you peace. She was quiet for a moment. Then softly she said, Thanks, Dad. For everything. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Always. A fresh start. A few months later, the divorce was finalized. Monica got nothing. She tried to fight it, but with all the evidence against her, she didn't stand a chance. I kept the house. I kept my assets. And most importantly, I kept my self-respect. One evening, I stood on my back porch, beer in hand, watching the sun set. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. No more lies. No more betrayal. Just me. My life. My future. And I was finally ready to move forward.